Hello YouTube. I wanted to make this video for a little while now, but I haven't gotten around to it because I've been thinking about it and thinking about how to distill the argument that I want to make. But the title of the video is Atheism is Political, or Atheism is Innately Political, right? And this is a claim that's going to set people off, I think. But I mean it. I think it's a fact that the statement "God does not exist" or "I disbelieve in a God" is an innately political claim, right? What do I mean by this? Well, I normally don't like to argue by thought experiment, but I'm going to do that in this case, just to elucidate what I mean when I say this. Imagine, just for a second, that we lived in a society that affirmed the divine right of kings, right? That legitimated monarchy on the basis of a right bestowed upon them by God, right? Well, within that society, if I state I disbelieve in the existence of a God, then I am delegitimizing the claim that the monarch makes to the throne. I'm delegitimizing the basis for that claim. Now, this doesn't mean that I cannot go on to argue that monarchy is still a good thing, right? That's fine. I can affirm within the society that affirms the divine right of kings, I can affirm the necessity of a monarchy and still be an atheist. But the point is that the statement "I am an atheist" delegitimizes the narrative by which the monarch justifies his own power, and it follows from that that the statement "I am an atheist" is an innately political claim within that context, right? I don't think that this is even debatable, right? So what about here and now? What about today, right? What about contemporary America? And I'm speaking about America, mind you. How does this insight transpose onto our current situation? Well, if we look at something like the pro-life movement, right? You can be an atheist pro-lifer without contradiction. I affirm that, right? But the prevalent narrative of the pro-life movement is legitimated on the basis of an appeal to religion, of an appeal to the truth of religion, right? So if you state "I disbelieve in God," that statement is innately a statement that is antithetical to the narrative presented by the pro-life movement, or the prevalent narrative of the pro-life movement, right? Again, you can provide different grounds for it, you can do whatever, you can be anti-abortion all you want as an atheist. I'm not disagreeing with that. But the fact is, you can't be a pro-lifer on the same grounds that the prevalent pro-life narrative is. And I think that this is obvious. You know, you can't sustain that position without contradiction. Or you can't sustain the reasons for that position without contradiction. And the same goes for teaching creationism in a classroom. I absolutely state that you can think this is a good idea and still be an atheist. I affirm that position. Or I affirm that that position doesn't contain a contradiction. But you can't legitimate that claim on the same basis as the general creationism narrative, right? You can't place that argument on an appeal to the divine as an atheist without contradiction, right? Now, typically it seems to me that when people say, oh, you can be an atheist and be anything, and therefore atheism is not political. Well, the fact is, the reasons that go into how you adopt a position is part of what it is to be political. It's part of the claim. I think that this is clear, right? So, if I might go back to the divine right of kings argument, if everybody in that society became an atheist, the whole structure of the political system would have to change. The systems, the epistemic systems by which the monarch justifies his own authority would have to change. The same is true about the pro-life argument. The same is true about creationism in classrooms. The same is true about various arguments within our society that are generally or most prevalently placed on a religious basis. And therefore, the statement, atheism is not or disbelief in God is not political, is contradictory and incoherent. So, what I want to drive at is that it's doing a grave disservice to atheist thought or the discourse of atheism. Or some people, I had a conversation recently where somebody didn't understand what that meant and could only relate to it on the basis of saying something like the movement of atheism, right? It's doing a disservice to that, to the conversation of atheism, to deny that atheism is not political. Rather, it seems to me that we should affirm that atheism is in fact political, and attempt to think through what that means, right? Now, I don't necessarily know that I don't know what implications, let's say, it might have to delegitimize certain political arguments, right? Which is what the statement, I disbelieve in God, does, right? It delegitimizes the narrative that's presented. Now, I don't know what effect that might have on the body politic, and that's a really interesting question. But what's problematic is to deny that there is an effect, right? It's problematic to say that atheism is not political. The political dimension of atheism needs to be embraced, but I think very carefully, and I think very subtly and very skillfully, but I think it's a necessity. And it seems to me to be naive and philosophically hazardous, maybe, or reckless, we might say, to take this statement, I disbelieve in the existence of a God, in a vacuum, and therefore to say it is not political, right? It doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a time and a place where arguments are made on a basis that it would be contradictory to affirm while affirming a disbelief in the existence of a God. And so yeah, that's all I want to say on this. And I'm gonna have a second video upload today, I think, maybe, responding to Theo Warner's death penalty video, which I agree with, and I think it's a brilliant video. But yeah, that's at least my first video of the day. Atheism is an innately political claim. Have a good day.